What's up, everyone? It's now been several years since Boksa landed on planet Earth. While he had a rocky start, he has now become the happy-go-lucky child we're all familiar with. He is integrating into human society quite fluidly. Dr. Brief even designed some stylish anti-Azoro glasses for him after discovering the lunar Blutz waves. After all, we can't have him destroying West City again. As Boksa begins public school, Dr. Brief notices the boy struggling with his studies, which is a new experience for the doctor because Bulma and Tights were super geniuses from the get-go. But Boksa doesn't seem even able to achieve the most average of results. Brief hires all sorts of study aids, tutors, and even tries mentoring the child himself, which makes a slight difference, but clearly not as much as it should. He then sits Boksa down and asks him if he likes school, to which he replies with an enthusiastic yeah. Brief then asks if he wants to make good grades, which is met with the same result. Dr. Brief then decides, well, not like I haven't tampered with his mind before, and begins designing an intelligence chip to implant into Boksa. Yes, we are now going to have a Goku who is not a complete idiot. Just a few weeks later, the chip is complete and the surgery is successful. Boksa now has a similar mental capacity to that of Bulma and flourishes in school. Brief decides even though this yields great results, that he must stop tampering with the boy and simply let him be himself, for better or worse. 5 years pass. Bulma is now 16 and Boksa 12. Boksa continues to achieve perfect scores in school and is becoming a pronounced athlete in the district in wrestling and martial arts. They even have him competing on the varsity level, which is of course still no match for him. He is living pretty much the perfect life for a student and is well loved by the community, though he does feel ever so slightly empty due to the lack of a real challenge. Bulma, on the other hand, is just completely bored with school, achieving the same academic achievements, but not getting nearly enough thrill out of the mundane anymore. Just like in the original series, she sets out to find the mystical Dragon Balls. Dr. Brief allows this because he knows Bulma, being the genius she is, doesn't really need school in order to be successful, and will probably just end up working at Capsule Corp anyway. Sooner or later, Bulma would find herself cruising through Mount Paozu. With the Dragon Raider detecting a signal nearby, she pulls over to find a small shack. Turns out an old man named Gohan owns the dwelling and the Dragon Ball, but no matter what Bulma offers, and she does offer quite a lot, he will not surrender the sphere. She eventually leaves all, oh well, I guess that's it for my adventure then, guess I'll just be going home. Which of course is not the Bulma we know, and she simply waits for nightfall as an oblivious pterodactyl flies overhead. She plans on breaking in to steal the mystical orb. Of course, not knowing the old man is one of the world's greatest martial artists, she fails miserably and is caught. Instinctively, Gohan throws her up against the wall and asks her what on earth she thinks she's doing. He demands that she leave now instantly, or he will march her straight down the mountain himself. Genuinely defeated, Bulma leaves, but merely continues her quest rather than giving up completely. Narrowly avoiding the bear thief, she finds herself in Aru Village, a small community terrorized by a shapeshifter known as Oolong the Terrible. Luckily, Bulma would avoid death due to her lack of superhuman strength and punching down a locked door. However, as soon as she gets a beat on the Dragon Ball, she would begin profusely banging on said door. Now believing this to be a ghost town, she ties a rope to the door the best she can and ties the other end to one of her capsule cars. A couple revs of the engine later, the door is off. Then she hears screaming coming from inside. Distraught, Bulma manages to calm the residents down enough to explain she is neither Oolong nor is she working with him. It's just a terrible misunderstanding. She fixes the door as the villagers explain to her what is going on. In exchange for the Dragon Ball, she offers to solve their problem so long the villagers are willing to play a part. Her plan is to let Oolong take another girl back to his secret lair. Unbeknownst to the tyrant, Bulma will be spying on him using her fancy gadgets. The plan goes off perfectly and Oolong leads her directly to his castle. As his time runs out, she's astonished to find out that he's simply a tiny little pig. She makes her way into the castle to see the other girls living in pretty much complete spoiled luxury. Oolong pretty much serves them, waiting hand and foot. Bulma finds this reassuring and outright funny, but she still knows she has to secure the Dragon Ball. She waits in the shadows until the sun goes down. Oolong is making his evening tea, and this is when she decides to strike. When he's not looking, she taints it with the piggy laxative. Moments later, she makes her presence known and strong arms Oolong into marching all the girls back to the village. The day is saved and Oolong begins to limp off in defeat, but Bulma isn't letting him off that easy. These shape-shifting powers could come in use in the future. Bulma decides that Oolong is going to join her, whether he likes it or not. Meanwhile, back at Capsule Corp, Brief begins to notice Boksa's love of fighting. It appears to be his only true passion, besides draining the fridge. Brief builds an additional wing to Capsule Corp to accommodate this. The fighting thing, of course, not the food thing, though both could benefit. After all, over the last decade or so, Boksa has truly become Brief's son in his eyes, and vice versa. Brief also hires instructors and buys learning material for the boy. While the instructors can never keep up, Boksa is able to perfect anything and everything that he reads or studies, with the addition of the intelligence chip. This makes him arguably a prodigy among prodigies when it comes to fighting. Brief informs Boksa that, should he train well enough, he would do well to enter the World Martial Arts Tournament. Wide-eyed, Boksa asks what that is. Brief explains that it's a tournament held every few years that hosts the world's greatest, most powerful warriors, and only a few select even make it past the initial preliminaries. Astonished, Boksa begins to train harder than ever to prepare for this tournament. Brief slows down the boy and directs him towards a machine. He tells Boksa to stand front and center. The machine attaches weighted clothing to Boksa, similar to the turtle shells seen at Qaaman House. Brief explains that he believes his usual training has gotten too easy and he should continue with this. When the training becomes easy once more, the weight will be doubled. Determined, Boksa gets back to work in order to be the strongest fighter under the heavens. And remember, hit that like button, that subscribe button, the bell for notifications, and at the very least, do all that stuff for the goats at the beginning of this video. But for real this time, we'll catch you next time.